Have you ever lost your temper in a critical moment, only to regret it later? That single lapse can ruin reputations, break alliances, and destroy opportunities. In this lesson, you will learn Machiavelli's timeless strategies to remain unshaken, commanding respect even when chaos surrounds you. In the theater of power, emotions are the greatest enemy. When confronted, the weak react and the foolish explode. But the wise, the cunning, those who understand the laws of control, maintain calm. Today, we reveal the secret to walking through fire unscathed, mastering confrontations, and emerging not just unhurt, but dominant. In every confrontation, the first battlefield is not the room, the street, or the negotiation table. It is within yourself. The truly powerful understand that emotions are like hidden enemies, capable of destroying even the most meticulous plans. Anger, fear, frustration, and impatience are not just feelings, they are chains that bind men to rashness and folly. To command any situation, one must first conquer these invisible forces. Imagine standing face to face with an adversary. They shout, they threaten, they provoke. The natural instinct for most men is to strike back, to defend themselves, to react immediately. But reaction is the refuge of the weak, the unprepared, the undisciplined. The wise man, the Machiavellian mind, observes these urges as a general observes the movements of an enemy army. He does not respond immediately. He does not let the storm within dictate the outcome of the battle outside. He waits, he breathes, he calculates. Mastering your inner storm begins with recognition. You must learn to identify the first flicker of anger or fear before it ignites into action. This is not weakness, it is strategy. The mind, when left unchecked, is a wild beast, prone to lashing out when provoked. By acknowledging its presence, by naming it, you strip it of some of its power. Anger becomes not an uncontrollable wave, but a signal, a warning that your opponent seeks to manipulate you, to provoke you into making a mistake. But recognition alone is insufficient. Mastery demands training. Just as a soldier does not enter battle unarmed, so too must you train your mind to withstand provocation. Meditation, reflection, and deliberate practice in controlled situations are the armaments of the Machiavellian strategist. Consider each minor irritation, each small insult, as a rehearsal for the larger confrontations that will inevitably come. Each time you resist the urge to react immediately, you strengthen the muscles of your composure. Control of the self is not passive. It requires constant vigilance. Machiavelli observed that men are seldom attacked openly. Most wounds are subtle, disguised as words or gestures. To allow these to stir your emotions is to hand the advantage to your opponent. The moment you recognize the potential for emotional hijacking, you reclaim the power. You place yourself above the immediate turmoil. You decide not only how to respond, but whether to respond at all. One must also understand the nature of fear and anger. They are both weapons wielded by those who understand them, and chains suffered by those who do not. When someone seeks to intimidate, to provoke you into anger, they hope to break your composure. They hope to see you lash out, to expose weakness. But the calm mind turns these attempts to its advantage. By observing the provocateur without succumbing, you gain insight into their character, into their strategy, and you position yourself to act when the time is most advantageous. To master your inner storm is to cultivate the habit of detachment. This is not indifference in the vulgar sense, but a calculated distance from the emotional charge of the moment. Picture yourself above the fray, observing the conflict as if it were a chess match, and you, the grandmaster, controlling every move. Each provocation becomes a piece on the board, not a threat to your being. Your calmness is a shield, your restraint a sword. The one who reacts impulsively is always at the mercy of circumstances. The one who masters his inner storm controls the flow of events. And remember, mastery is a lifelong pursuit. No one achieves perfect control overnight. Even the wisest man may stumble, may feel the surge of anger or fear, may taste the impatience that seeks immediate action. What separates the strategist from the fool is the speed of recovery and the return to calculated composure. When you falter, acknowledge it, reset, and continue to observe yourself as an outsider would. This detachment is the hallmark of the truly powerful. Even in moments of extreme tension, there is opportunity. The calm man sees what the emotional man cannot. While others are blinded by rage or panic, the master of his inner storm perceives openings, weaknesses, and the subtle shifts in power that dictate the outcome. Calmness is not passivity, it is preparation. It is the collection of intelligence while others are consumed by chaos. It is the accumulation of advantage in silence, in patience, and in the mastery of oneself in the heat of confrontation. The instinct to strike, to defend, to assert oneself is powerful, yet it is often the path of ruin. Machiavelli understood that haste is the enemy of strategy. Those who act too quickly are like soldiers charging blindly into battle. They may fight fiercely, but they fight without knowledge, and knowledge is power. The first rule of surviving and dominating any confrontation is to observe, to watch, to listen, to gather information before one moves. The moment you act without understanding is the moment you surrender control. Observation is a weapon far sharper than anger or brute force. When faced with provocation, the natural man reacts. He interprets insults as truths, challenges as threats, and immediately acts in defense. But the wise man does not. He studies the opponent, the environment, the subtle nuances of tone, gesture, and expression. Every detail is a clue, every hesitation a window into intent. The man who masters observation understands that the words spoken in haste are often masks for deeper weaknesses, and that the true battle is always beneath the surface, invisible to the careless eye. Consider a confrontation not as a clash of arms, but as a dance of intentions. Every gesture, every word, every pause is part of a carefully constructed choreography designed to manipulate you, to elicit a reaction, to uncover a weakness. The one who reacts immediately is a puppet. The one who observes becomes the puppeteer. By watching before acting, you transform uncertainty into insight, chaos into opportunity. You begin to see the invisible threads of influence and control, and you are no longer merely a participant. You are the director of the scene. Observation requires patience, a virtue few possess. Most men desire immediate resolution, quick victory, and swift justice. They fail to realize that patience is the shield of the wise. To wait is not to submit, it is to arm oneself with knowledge. Observe the words spoken, the subtle shifts in body language, the fleeting expressions of fear, arrogance, or desperation. These are the markers of weakness that the impatient overlook. The calm observer reads the landscape of confrontation, as a general reads the battlefield, noting every advantage, every potential trap, and every opening. Silence is the companion of observation. Speak last, react slowly, and in that delay the opponent exposes himself. When one speaks first, one commits, reveals intentions, and often gives away leverage. The truly strategic man, the Machiavellian mind, understands that power often lies in withholding response. By remaining silent while others rush to fill the void, you control the narrative. You dictate the pace of the encounter, forcing your adversary to reveal more than they intended, to stumble, and in doing so, to provide you with ammunition. Observation also cultivates foresight. By carefully noting patterns of behavior, anticipating responses, and assessing motivations, you gain the advantage of planning several moves ahead. The hasty man fights with only the present in mind. The observant man fights with the future mapped out. He understands not only the current threat, but the potential consequences of every action taken, and thus he can manipulate the outcome without ever appearing forceful or reactive. In confrontation, those who anticipate the future dominate those who react to the present. But observation is not passive. It is a deliberate and conscious act, demanding both attention and analysis. Each word, each glance, each change in posture is examined and stored as intelligence. The observant man interprets the subtleties of tone and inflection as a general interprets enemy movements. He notes hesitation as weakness, aggression as overcompensation, and contradiction as a sign of vulnerability. The knowledge gained through observation is power in its purest form, for it allows action that is precise, calculated, and devastatingly effective. Furthermore, the act of observing before acting instills fear and respect in others. Those who remain calm while all around them rush to conflict project a quiet dominance. The opponent senses a mind unshaken, an awareness beyond his grasp, and the uncertainty itself becomes a tool in your hands. Machiavelli recognized that men fear what they do not understand. By mastering the art of observation, you place yourself above the fray, untouchable in your composure, and your very calmness becomes a weapon of influence. Observation is not merely about gathering intelligence, it is also about controlling perception. By observing, you control how much the other party knows about your intentions. You withhold reaction, conceal emotion, and craft an image of invulnerability. The reactive man lays bare his thoughts, and with them, his weaknesses. The observer cloaks his mind, moving invisibly through the currents of confrontation, while others reveal themselves in every gesture and word. Your silence, your measured attention, becomes the armor that protects your strategies and the lens through which you manipulate the unfolding encounter. In all confrontations, knowledge precedes action. To act without observation is to gamble with fate. To observe first is to ensure that every move is deliberate, every response precise, and every outcome aligned with your advantage. Machiavelli teaches that the greatest power in any confrontation is not force, nor even rhetoric, but the clarity of insight gained through careful, unhurried observation, and the restraint to act only when victory is certain. In the art of confrontation, there exists a subtle and insidious weapon far more dangerous than force or ridicule: the personal insult. To the untrained mind, it strikes like a dagger to the heart, provoking anger, shame, and a need for immediate retaliation. Yet Machiavelli instructs that the wise man recognizes personal attacks not as truths, but as strategies employed by opponents to manipulate, to provoke, and to undermine. Detachment from insult is not indifference, it is mastery. It is the recognition that the mind is a fortress, and offense, when internalized, becomes the key that unlocks its gates for others to invade. Consider the nature of insult. Every word meant to wound carries a hidden intention. It is rarely an expression of truth. It is a weapon aimed to provoke a reaction. Those who react reveal themselves. They display weakness, vulnerability, and predictability. The moment you allow an insult to stir your emotions, you transfer power from yourself to the provocateur. The wise man, the strategist, sees the trap and refuses to fall into it. He treats the insult as one would a tool to study an opponent, noting its structure, its intent, and its possible weaknesses, while remaining unmoved in his own composure. Detachment begins with perspective. You must separate the content of the insult from your identity. An attack upon your character, appearance, or intellect is not an attack on your essence. It is a tactical maneuver. By understanding that an insult is a reflection of the speaker's strategy rather than your value, you reclaim control over your mind. The adversary seeks chaos, a disruption of your reason, yet you meet the attempt with stillness. In this stillness lies your advantage. While others are consumed by anger or hurt, you observe and calculate, turning the confrontation into a field of intelligence. Machiavelli knew that men are often slaves to their pride, and pride is the fuel for reactive behavior. Personal insult attacks that pride, seeking to provoke immediate defense. But mastery over self requires a higher view, a perspective that places the insult within the larger context of power and control. The wise man understands that yielding to emotional provocation is an indulgence that leads to diminished authority and weakened influence. To remain unshaken is to preserve your strength, to maintain the clarity necessary for strategy, and to deny your opponent the satisfaction of seeing you unsettled. Detachment also cultivates a dangerous and commanding presence. When one remains calm in the face of attack, it signals to the world that they are untouchable, that no word, no provocation, no petty insult can disturb their composure. This calm becomes a weapon in itself. People instinctively respect those who are unshaken and fear those who cannot be manipulated through emotion. By refusing to internalize insult, you elevate your status in the minds of others. Your calmness becomes an unspoken assertion of power, a subtle yet profound dominance over both the immediate adversary and all who observe the encounter. Moreover, detachment allows one to respond strategically rather than emotionally. The man who takes insult personally acts impulsively. His retaliation is driven by emotion, often resulting in miscalculation and unnecessary escalation. The master of detachment, however, converts insult into information. Every attack provides insight into the character, motives, and tactics of the provocateur. By remaining aloof, you gain the ability to respond when the timing is advantageous, when the retaliation serves a greater purpose, or when it reinforces your authority. This is the art of turning provocation into opportunity, a skill few ever truly master. To detach from personal insults, one must cultivate emotional foresight. You must anticipate attempts to provoke, recognize triggers within yourself, and develop strategies to maintain calm under pressure. This is achieved not by suppression, which is temporary and fragile, but through understanding and training. Each confrontation is an opportunity to practice restraint, to observe the mechanics of insult, and to reinforce the habit of strategic detachment. Over time, what once would have caused agitation becomes merely another piece of data to be processed, analyzed, and, if necessary, leveraged. Detachment also demands a measure of humility, but not in the sense of weakness. True humility is the recognition that the world is not shaped by our perceptions of offense, but by the interplay of power, strategy, and perception. An insult does not diminish you unless you allow it to. By refusing to internalize it, you maintain authority over your own mind, preserving the freedom to act with precision, purpose, and impact. The insult loses its potency the moment it is stripped of the emotional reaction it seeks to provoke. Furthermore, detachment reinforces resilience. Life and power are filled with provocation, and the unprepared will be endlessly thrown off balance by petty attacks. The wise man builds a mental armor forged from observation, reason, and discipline. He understands that offense is transient, that words are fleeting, and that power resides not in reaction, but in the capacity to remain composed while others falter. By detaching, you conserve energy, maintain clarity, and ensure that each action taken in response to conflict is intentional, calculated, and decisive. Finally, detachment from personal insult allows one to wield influence subtly. The calm observer of insults can choose to ignore, to redirect, or to respond in a manner that maximizes advantage. This discretion amplifies power because unpredictability is a tool of control. Those who cannot predict your reaction are uncertain, hesitant, and vulnerable. By mastering detachment, you transform what is intended as a weapon against you into a demonstration of your strength, your discipline, and your unassailable command of self. In every confrontation, tension is inevitable. The air thickens with unspoken challenges, gestures sharpen with silent threats, and every word carries weight far beyond its meaning. Most men fear tension, interpreting it as a sign of danger or instability. They rush to dissolve it, often acting impulsively, and in doing so, they surrender control. Machiavelli teaches that the wise man understands that tension is not an obstacle to be avoided, it is a resource to be harnessed. In the crucible of conflict, tension becomes information, a map to opportunity, and a tool to shape outcomes in your favor. When faced with confrontation, the untrained mind perceives tension as chaos, something to escape or resolve immediately. Yet those who have studied the laws of power know better. Tension reveals character, intentions, and weaknesses. Every pause, every hesitation, every raised voice exposes more than the words themselves could convey. A man's composure under pressure, or his lack thereof, is the most transparent window into his strategy and capabilities. The observant strategist does not flinch. He reads, deciphers, and learns. What frightens the weak enlightens the powerful. The first step in transforming tension into strategy is awareness. You must perceive the underlying currents of the confrontation. Who seeks to dominate? Who attempts to manipulate? Who is bluffing and who is vulnerable? Each element of tension is a piece of intelligence. The moment you recognize this, the dynamic shifts. You are no longer merely a participant reacting to external pressure, you become the orchestrator of the encounter. You understand the battlefield, the spoken words, the silences, the gestures, as elements that can be used to your advantage rather than threats to your composure. Machiavelli understood that human behavior in moments of tension is often predictable. Fear provokes overcompensation, anger leads to rash decisions, and pride blinds men to reality. By observing these tendencies, you gain insight into how the confrontation will unfold. You can anticipate reactions, predict mistakes, and create openings that are invisible to those consumed by their emotions. To the untrained, tension is a trap. To the strategic mind, it is a lens through which the opponent's weaknesses are illuminated. Transforming tension also requires a mindset of control. One must internalize the principle that pressure does not dictate action, it informs it. When others escalate, react, or falter under tension, you remain composed. Your calm becomes the anchor around which the encounter revolves. The strategic advantage lies in the ability to act deliberately while all others are swept by impulse. Tension, once mastered, becomes a signal, guiding your decisions rather than provoking them. The chaos that ensnares others frees the disciplined mind, providing clarity and foresight. It is also essential to recognize that tension is a tool for influence. By maintaining calm amid stress, you project authority. The intensity of the moment highlights your composure, signaling strength, confidence, and control. Those who attempt to intimidate or provoke you are rendered less effective, as their actions fail to elicit the response they seek. Observers, colleagues, competitors, and allies notice the difference. They respect the calm strategist and fear the one who cannot be manipulated through pressure. By converting tension into a demonstration of mastery, you reinforce your power without uttering a word. Moreover, tension contains actionable intelligence. Every pause, every change in posture, every word laced with emotion is data. It indicates intent, strategy, and vulnerability. The masterful confrontational strategist uses this information to plan next steps. Perhaps a seemingly hostile comment reveals insecurity, or a gesture of aggression exposes a lack of preparation. By reading these signs, you gain foresight into the unfolding events and can act with precision when the moment is most favorable. The advantage is no longer reactive, it is anticipatory. Another dimension of transforming tension into strategy is the deliberate use of timing. Patience allows you to wait for the precise moment to act, speak, or counter. Haste in tension leads to errors. Measured response converts pressure into leverage. When the opponent is most consumed by their own agitation, your calm calculation becomes decisive. Each measured response, each strategic pause, shifts the balance of power. You are not merely responding to tension, you are manipulating it to dictate the rhythm and direction of the encounter. Machiavelli teaches that control over tension is control over perception. While others reveal their instability, you mask your intentions and frame the narrative. In doing so, you create uncertainty in your opponent's mind. The fear of the unknown weakens them, while your composed observation strengthens you. The same tension that could destabilize you becomes a magnifying lens for your foresight, a crucible in which strategy is forged. By mastering this dynamic, you convert potential vulnerability into overwhelming advantage. Finally, transforming tension into strategy requires a relentless focus on the long game. The immediate desire to resolve conflict or assert dominance often blinds men to the broader consequences of their actions. The strategic mind uses tension to gather insight, consolidate position, and act with purpose. By observing, interpreting, and harnessing the energy of conflict, you convert what appears to be chaos into a controlled instrument of power, influence, and dominance. Power in confrontation does not belong to those who react first or speak loudest. It belongs to those who master themselves, who see beyond the surface, who transform chaos into opportunity. We began by learning to conquer the storm within, understanding that the first battle is never with the adversary, but with our own emotions. We then observed the world with patience, recognizing that insight precedes action and knowledge is the greatest weapon in any conflict. We detached ourselves from personal insults, denying our opponents the satisfaction of provocation and turning their attempts at manipulation into intelligence. And finally, we transformed tension itself into strategy, converting every moment of conflict into a map of opportunity, a moment to assert foresight and control. These are not mere tactics, they are laws of power. To remain calm, to observe, to detach, and to strategically harness tension is to rise above the ordinary, to wield influence without exposing weakness, and to command respect in a world ruled by impulse and chaos. Mastery over confrontation is mastery over circumstance, and mastery over circumstance is mastery over men. In every clash, every heated debate, every subtle provocation, the calm, the observant, the detached, and the strategic emerge victorious. Not because they dominate with force, but because they dominate with mind, presence, and foresight. The laws of Machiavelli are timeless. Control your mind, control the situation, and the world bends to your calculated will. Those who panic, who lash out, who allow insults to wound, will always be at the mercy of circumstance. But those who walk through confrontation as if above it, who read the battlefield, who hold their composure, and who act only when advantage is certain, possess a power far beyond the reach of mere reaction. In every confrontation, calm is the weapon, observation is the armor, detachment is the shield, and strategy is the sword. Those who master these principles are not merely survivors, they are rulers of the moment, architects of influence and masters of men.